sir. She's looking good. She's all put back together. What's up, guys? I'm Finn. Welcome to Treehouse Off-Road. In today's video, I'm going to be removing these Dobinson long travel shocks from the rear of my Sequoia and installing these 14-inch travel Radflo coilovers. I have a harebrained scheme that I think will work, so join me as I cut into my daily driver. Hey, real quick, would you guys be interested in merch? We get hats and hoodies and t-shirts made for our shop. Let me know in the comments if you guys would be interested in some hats, hoodies, or t-shirts. This day has been a long time coming. I've been researching it. I've been thinking about how I'm gonna do it, but I finally think it's time to hack into the floor of my Sequoia. Not sure exactly how it's gonna go down yet, but until I start cutting metal, I won't know. I want a better ride. I want more travel. I've heard really good things about Radflo, so I'm happy to finally give them a shot. These are the Radflos I got. They're 14 inches of travel, so they're like almost 40 inches fully extended, which means they're gonna have to come through the fender wells. And this is some 1/8 wall square tube that's approximately the size of the Sequoia frame. So it's like 3 inches by 5 inches square. Okay, so what I'm thinking is we got our frame rails, we got our rear axle, rear wheels, we got the tubular cross member that sits there, and the bigger cross member that sits about there, and our coil springs currently sit somewhere in that region. So what I would be doing is cutting this section of the frame away, deleting the coil spring obviously, cutting, deleting, and then I'm going to take the frame in, down, and out, in, down, and out, and putting the new coilovers right here, kind of sort of right in line with the frame. Let's take it back for 1 second. The Sequoia is so wide that even with the Gen 2 Tundra axle, which pushes this wheel out an extra 2 inches, I can't comfortably outboard a shock without it hitting on full articulation. You 4Runner guys have it too easy. I tried this a couple different ways. I would have had to cut into the frame rail so far that there would have been absolutely nothing left. So I said, you know what? Let me just divert the frame completely and throw a coilover in that pocket. I think there's enough room behind this plastic that I can hide a shock mount in there, or it will just have to poke its head out. All the HVAC stuff is back there for the rear heat and AC. If I want to cut into my body, I got all these lines to deal with. The two on the right are the AC, the two on the left are the heater. They all connect right up here. It's a 10mm on those AC lines, and I'm going to remove it. It might discharge the system and it might be violent. Okay, note to self, don't do that again. I'm gonna see if I can pull this unit out from the top, and then I gotta find a way to seal these AC lines. So I got the rear HVAC unit out of the way, but there's still some AC lines running right where I need to cut through the floor. I located the threaded section where they attach and carefully removed them. I cleaned them up, cut the ends off, and then my coworker Shauna welded them up for me. The plan is to screw these little terminator caps back onto the AC lines so I can have it recharged and start running AC in my cab again. The heating lines were a lot easier. I just ripped out the ones that were in my way and then closed the loop up with one of the existing hoses. So here's a diagram of the rear AC system. This set of lines right here was running right over the passenger rear tire under the floor where I needed to cut. I eliminated these lines, and these are the threaded ends that I cut off, had welded shut, and screwed onto right here. For the heating system, I got rid of the rearmost set of lines and the middle set of lines, and then just took one of these hoses and looped these front lines back into one another. And the system can't tell anything's wrong. If anything, it just reduced the capacity of the coolant by a very small amount. Alright, so I just took out my other panel. It houses my 12-volt electrical system, plus the ARB manifold and solenoid for the rear locker. So I do have some constraints. I need to keep my second row seat in and functional, and I'd like to keep my third row seat in and functional. That leaves me from here over and from here over to work with. Alright, so we're looking at a diagram of the first gen Sequoia frame. This is the area that I'll be modifying. If we look at it a little bigger, here's the tubular crossmember that I'll be retaining, and here's the crossmember behind it that I'll also be retaining. What I'll be cutting out is these upper coil spring mounts, the passenger and the driver. And then the section of frame that I'll be modifying is right here between those two crossmembers. These two upper coil spring mounts are stamped steel, several layers thick. I couldn't believe how thick some of this stuff was. Toyota was not playing around when they designed this chassis. Sometimes I can't help but question my choices. These little upper shock mounting boxes took me quite a long time to make. Just tearing it out. Always doing something, never finished. Makes me wonder if what I'm doing right now, how long it's gonna be until I tear this out. Well, a few hours and a lot of steel dust later, this is how we're looking. So smooth, smooth. We come across the tube, back over to this side. There's all the weight reduction, along with a bunch of dust. All right, we got a nice clean frame rail here. That gives me 13.5 inches. I do feel like before I cut this though, I need to brace it. I need to weld something in between those two cross members to keep it sturdy. I think that'll work. All right, so this is a bird's eye view of the frame from the top. This is the piece of frame that I have to work with, 13.5 inches worth. Here's the tire. The Eibach springs I'm using have an outside diameter of just under 4.25, so I figure either 5 or 6 inches will give me the clearance that I need. So I marked the halfway point. I'm gonna take my 5-inch cutting wheel. I'm also gonna mark a 6-inch because I'd feel better if I could do 6. I'm gonna go ahead and drag the center line through the frame, and I want my coilover to be going through it. So either way, I'm gonna need a 5-inch gap, or better yet, if I can swing it, a 6-inch gap. Let's see if I take the section width and divide that in half. If I center it there, then it's sticking out of the frame about 1 inch. But if I keep the spring flush with the frame, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to explain this as I go because I'm really truly just bullshitting here. Well, let me get the actual spring, how about that? So it's just under 4.25. So I feel like 5 would be too close, but 6, I feel good about that. I can go ahead and just mark this spring sitting flush with the frame. So there's the actual spring. And if I take a middle of the line of that, it's 2 1/8. And if I put my 6-inch wheel around that, so if I go from my outer cut point and ride that ridge, I get something like this. And since I have 3-inch steel, I'll need to go back 3 inches. Same on this side. Connect those lines. Extend these, and then maybe I could join it like this. I kind of like that idea. I was going to do frame rail and then in, over, and back out, but I don't really have that much room. I could get away with this. So these are the shapes I would need. There's 2 of those. It will work. Not sure exactly how yet, but it will work. So I do feel confident cutting my frame now. Now I'm just doing my due diligence and cycling the axle a bit. Where is this shock going to end up lining up? When the axle drops out, the shock will end up tilting more like that. And when it comes back up, it'll straighten out. This looks to be as far down as I'll ever get both sides at the same time. But the good thing is that my center line directly lines up with the front of the axle tube where the mount will be. So I don't think I'll be using this mount anymore. So I'll cycle the axle a lot more once I get my Panhard bar back in. But for now, this is the area I have to cut. I can't go further back or forward. I'm taking out as much as I possibly can. So the next step I'm going to take is to just cut it. Well, now I've gone and done it. All right, according to our diagram, this is cut out. So the next thing I think I'll do is cut these 2 pieces. I'll start with this one and see how close I can get it. It's not exact. I got 3 by 5 inch tube and this side is 6 by 3. Wow, this side's 5 by 3, so. First piece, I'll make another. So I've just been doing fitment with these two pieces for a while. Instead of doing the hangover like right here, I found this works a lot better and it fits better and it'll be easier to weld. I got that one done. Well, now I just have to figure out how to join these two perfectly. As much as it pains me to do so, this support brace is in my way now. I'm gonna have to cut it out. I'll just have to perform all the work with the jack there. I think the best move at this point would be to tack the rear one on how it is long and then try to match the front up with the rear because the rear is higher up, so it'll kind of set the height. I've been framed. Now I'm just doing some stuff like filling a few small holes like this one. I'll make these transitions a little easier on the eyes. I'm gonna move on to the other side for now. Before I completely burn everything in, I wanna make sure that this is gonna work. I wanna make sure everything is gonna go through the floor properly and clear. On the passenger side, I think I'm gonna start by building this. I'm gonna make it 13. I'm gonna cut 13 out of this and I'm just gonna plug it in. I hope that's easier and takes less time. Well, it's the end of day 3, and here's what we got. Ba-boom. The second one definitely came out nicer than the first one, but I'm confident the first one is strong, so I'm not gonna redo it. All right guys, it's day 4. Let's get going. First thing I did this morning was I put some blue tape on my springs and on the reservoir just to keep it nice. I also took collapsed and extended measurements of the coilover and just put them right on the side of my truck for easy reference. I also vacuumed all the dirt and the dust out of the back of the truck, and now I'm just gonna open up a hole in this fender well, starting with a 3-inch hole saw. So at the 5.5 inch mark, it looks like I can clear everything at full stuff, but I also have quite a bit of room to move this wheel forward in the wheel well. 3 inches down there. I might start there, twisting my links smaller, get that wheel a little bit more centered. So here's after adjusting the arms. It's much more even. Able to turn the wheel. I think that's pretty good for a 37. Let's hop up there and see what it looks like from inside. So if we look down, there's room there, but not much. Less than 4 inches. I'm gonna have to come in more. I might have to find like a Jeep seat or something to put back here. Okay, so that's about what I'd figured as far as the amount that'll be sticking through the floor. So this is ultimate stuff. And if the tire happens to rub against the spring at this point for a second while I'm going over a rock or a difficult spot, I'm fine with that. I just can't have the spring hitting the body. So I think my best bet is to tack the shock mount onto the axle and go from there. So with the passenger side fully stuffed, this is what we see from the driver's side hole, off center to the front. It's kind of in towards the frame more than I'd like it to. It's just ain't easy getting it exact. All right, so this isn't exactly what I'm gonna do, but this is the idea. It's gonna be straight up and down. Obviously, it's a little tilted back right there. The tape isn't holding, but I think I'll probably end up doing a bar across. When I don't need the extra strength, I can remove it and have space back there. But then if I go wheeling, I can drop it in for that extra added support. So I think I'll start making something like this out of metal. I don't love it, to be clear. I'm not extremely stoked on it. I don't know how I'll get the plastic back on. I had a feeling this would happen. One thing that bugs me about this setup is that I'll have to remove the coilover to add preload because it's gonna be like trapped in there. But I'll start making that thing out of steel, 3/16. I gotta do some trimming. I broke it apart again because I need to cut this line.
Alright, so I spent some time shaping this thing, welded it up. I tried to match the contours of the Panhard.
All right, it's the beginning of day 6. Got one of the shock towers tacked in. It follows the curvature of the fender well, and that's because the tire gets real close as it articulates. I think my best bet at this point is to duplicate that on this side, get them both mounted, because this wheel will follow a different path than that one, just because of the nature of the Panhard bar. Okay, got both shocks in now. I'm thinking about moving that bottom mount back a little bit so it's a little more straight up and down. If we go over to the other side, same program as the first one, just resting. I got my 5-inch mark and my 6-inch mark. That's inches away from the end of the axle. I'm gonna raise it up and find out where all this sits at full bump. Okay, we're bumped out here. Never realized how close that was. Never realized how close the link would be to the frame. All right, it's another day. I think this is 7th day of work on this. A lot of them have been half days, guys. A couple hours here, a couple hours there, but this is the 7th day on this project. A quick recap, both shock towers are built. Michael calls them the twin towers. I can still put my seats in. It squishes the cushion a little bit, but they still both fit at this point. My friend Nick from NV Fab in Grover Beach stopped by today. I humbly asked his guidance because he is an absolute G when it comes to fabrication. And he had an idea that I'm pretty sure is gonna save me hours of time. For the upper shock mount, I was gonna cut them out by hand and then just keep cycling it, moving it in, cycling it, moving it in, cutting the tacks, retacking it. He said, you want me to whip you up some adjustable upper mounts on the plasma table? So we went over to his shop and he drew those in about 30 seconds and they were cut out in under 5 minutes. So what I can do with these is I can tack them on and then just move the shock in and out. I can cycle the suspension and find the perfect sweet spot, mark it, and then make my real mounts. So thank you, Nick. Genius idea. This is as stuffed as I want this tire. I can still barely get a pinky through up top. Not as close as the other side, but a 1/2 inch away from the frame. pretty dang close. My next plan is to fully compress this coil over, then I can tack in those upper mounts and finally have at least one absolute to go off of. So the coilover is fully extended, I'm gonna collapse it, and I still have that inch of bump left at the bottom of this shock when it's fully compressed, so I'm cutting it close, but not too close. Hitting the tower, hitting the tire, put it in the middle. Okay, upper mount is tacked in, and now we run into our next problem, which is this. The spring is hitting right here, so this lower mount needs to be kicked back quite a bit. So I'm gonna cut it off and then mount it on top of the axle tube. I had it tacked on like this. I wanna do something more like this now. Let's go cut this up into something new. And then here's what we end up with. I'll tell you, man, anybody that wants to get into fab work better be cool with repetition. That's all this is. Lots of repetition with a few wins in between. Oh, I broke the tacks. That's what that was. So I broke the tacks, but I think I got the information that I need. So I'm gonna get this measurement from back plate to bolt hole center, and then the up and down measurement. Well, I gotta make my upper shock mounts anyway, so I'm gonna do that now. I think that looks pretty good. And then once it's all said and done, I'll put a cap on the top, so that's why it's a flat top. Something like that. Final upper mounts are in. Gonna be something like this. We're a little bit close on this rear end, I'm not gonna lie. Man, the amount of times I've hopped in and out of this thing. Another issue popped up, if you can believe it. When I raise this side, that side really swings in to the point where I'm not even close to fully stuffed and I'm already hitting spring right here. I've just made the executive decision that there's no hope for the third row seats anymore. I'll have to figure something out, but I'm gonna carve into the frame and set this whole thing back in there. All right, day 9. Let me give you an update. Yesterday I got the rest of my springs. I'm obviously not using 8 springs. I'm using 4, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna need. So these are 400-pound, 14-inch springs. I got a set of 400-pound, 16-inch springs, a set of 350-pound, 16-inch springs, and a set of 350-pound, 18-inch springs. We're very fortunate to have Poly Performance right in our hometown, and those guys take good care of us. It's like having an off-road Walmart right down the street. It's great. As far as the truck goes, if you guys remember, I reshaped this so that it would sit on the edge. It actually fits really well on that profile, but it's too far forward. So I got to reshape it again. Time to do on this side what I've already done on the other side, which is get the other coilover mocked up in the bottom, locate where I need to put the upper mount, and then just start flexing the truck out. Chuck this down there. We'll give it a good chuck, a proper chuck. I think we might have about that much tire clearance, which is great. It's like a ½ inch. You can see we're good on this side. Great on that side too. Why can't the other one be like that? Given the fact that the bottom of this shock is going to want to swing towards the front of the truck on droop, I'm going to justify it backwards a little bit. So it's looking like this is what we might be able to achieve here. Big old gap there. Everything is attached except the driver upper mount. I think I need to limit this down travel a little bit. All right, day 8, King of the Hammers is in 4 days. Not sure I'll be able to make it, but if I don't make it, it's not because I didn't try. Let's get into it. It's time to do the limit strap on this side. The level of droop on this side is going to affect the position of the tire when it's stuffed on this side. But that's why nothing is being fully welded to the very end. Everything changes everything else. It's actually quite maddening. So I think the best place for this limit strap, it's a shorter one. It's a 12-inch, something like this. I can still get at it and adjust it. And then that is gonna go right on the link. Both limit straps are in. I am done fiddling with this axle. I have come to a point where both coilovers are in, top and bottom. As happy as I'm gonna be with it. The shocks are all located. It's time to start final welding. I really wanna get this thing at ride height, so I gotta hurry up and do all this. That looks pretty centered. This has been an absolute exercise in patience, I'll tell you what. I think I'm gonna do a trick that I just saw on a video yesterday where you can weigh your truck without scales. I'll link the video down below so you guys can watch it. The channel is called Wide Open Designs. You start with the length of your spring. This is a 14-inch spring. You lower the truck down, and as the weight transfers to the jack stands and the axle starts to come up, the spring will compress. A 400-pound spring will compress 1 inch for every 400 pounds that's applied against it. Okay, I got these jack stands set up for ride height to match the front so we get even weight distribution. I'm gonna start lowering it. Front wheels are touching. There it is, 11 exactly. So 14 minus 11, 3 times 400, 1,200 pounds. I went to a truck scale recently, I'll throw it on the screen. I think the rear half of my truck weighed 3,200 pounds. So unless my math is kooky, it looks like we got 1,200 pounds on each of these rear wheels. That seems like a lot. You know what? I don't know what any of it means. What I do know for sure is that this thing needs to get fully welded, so I'm gonna hop on that. So these towers need holes to access the bolt, similar to that one. I'll do the passenger side now. Do one on the other side and we'll be good. Dead center on that nut. The hole dozer. Next, I will cut the tops off these towers to make them even with the shock mounts. All right, we're getting there. We're gaining on her. Got the triangles in, top and bottom. Lower shock mounts welded inside and out. And I did a big 1/4-inch gusset behind the tower. if I can get this up there. We got a bolt in there. It never ends. It just never ends. Yes, sir. She's looking good. She's all put back together. I'm about to drop it on its own weight and see what happens with these springs. I have no idea what's going to happen. Okay, well, we're stink bugging a little bit. This was all part of the plan though. It was all guessing. Let's check out exactly what's going on. 9 1/4, I'll call it. 11 3/4. The back is completely empty right now. Got to take that into consideration. I'm noticing also that my front driver tire is really low on air, so that could be contributing to the overall stink bug look of this thing right now. Day 13, just doing a spring swap. What I ended up going with is a 350 pound 16-inch spring over a 400 pound 16-inch spring. This is what ends up contacting first, is this third link. Alright, so when I did this 3-link, I had to clearance this tubular cross member, and I did it in stages. At first I did it up to here, and then when I added the coilovers, I had to bump it up a little bit, but ultimately it was still hitting, and there wasn't much meat left on the bone up there. So I took some 2-inch, 0.25 wall square tube and made this bridge, and then I capped the ends with 3/16 and made sure to bring the cap up onto the bridge just for that extra support. So here's what this side looks like. It just goes on here like this. And here it is from the other side. I don't foresee any more interference between this link and that cross member. And I do believe it's strong enough. It's finally finished. Suspension's working really good. Finally got the holes in the fenders taken care of. Used some bed liner and just painted some fender flares on there myself. I think it looks okay. You'll have to excuse the bald tires. So I ended up using some RV trim around the hole to seal it up. I use the term seal it up very liberally. It's not completely sealed up from the elements or the road noise, but it's as good as it's gonna get, at least in this stage of the build. I am gonna reinforce this with some fish plates around the frame. I realize it's probably a weak point, so that'll be next, but I did wanna get this video out. So I ended up just cutting up these interior pieces until they fit. I did film it, but it wasn't pretty, so I'll throw some B-roll in there for you, but I just kept taking a little bit out of it until it fit. The reservoirs are behind there. I wish there could have been a way for me to get them out here, but the hoses just weren't long enough. As you can see, it's not completely sealed off from the elements. I do still get a little bit of dust that creeps in. To seal the floor area, I used a combination of rubber trim and adhesive foam. There's about a foot of space between the bar and the seat, and the bar is just through bolted with some old M10 Toyota bolts, 6 on each side. Haven't come up with a solution for a rear seat yet, but I do have a Jeep, rear Jeep seat on the way, so I'll just secure it to the floor however I have to. These coilovers are a game changer on the street. Makes the truck much more stable than it was. It's still a little bit higher in the back than the front, not by a lot, but where it is now, when I have it loaded up with camping gear, it sits perfectly level. I'm really happy with it. Plan on doing the Rubicon in a week and a half, so I will film that and let you guys know. All right, well, that wraps this one up, guys. Like I said in the beginning, we do have merch for our shop, so if you guys would be interested in that, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. If you do watch these videos regularly and you're not a subscriber, please consider becoming a subscriber. And thank you for coming with me on this journey as I build out the best SUV ever made, period. All right, later. Peace.